Hello guys, I'm TopherSmurf. Galagos Ruins is finally coming to the global servers. This is a great place to farm resources and all kinds of materials, as well as incredibly important late game materials like the refining catalyst. I'm going to help you guys with a quick walk through the Galagos Ruins, how to choose the right monsters, how to get through certain floors, and also how to make the most out of your reset, getting you as many coins as possible to be able to purchase all of those important items in the shop. I put out lots of helpful guides as well as PvP content, so if you're liking what you see, make sure to like and subscribe. You can easily access the new runes by going to your menu and clicking the Galagos Ruins button right next to Kairos. You will be greeted with the monster selection and magic order selection windows, which seem pretty daunting at first, but I will break it down. For now though, let's hit escape or back out of this screen so we can see the rest of the menus. At the top is what floor you are currently on. For all of you starting, that will be floor 1, and you can make it all the way to the end of floor 4. There is a recommended power level, but that doesn't really mean much. There's also the little timer letting you know how much time you currently have left in the current Galagos season. There is also a reset button down at the bottom which allows you to completely reset your progress and monster usage energy, but doesn't allow you to get the stage rewards again. More on this later. Next is the magic order, which shows you the current element buff to your monsters, your summoner, and even the enemies. In my case here, the fire weapons and fire monsters do more damage, but dark creatures found in the dungeons, including bosses, do more damage to us. Next is the selection screen. You can only bring in 30 monsters, and for the most of us, we don't really have that many built monsters, so that's not really a problem. When you go to choose what monsters to bring into a stage, you will notice a yellow bar underneath them. This is their energy. You can use a monster up until their energy is depleted. Even if you swap in a monster during a stage, that monster will also lose energy. This is why you typically don't want to use your best monsters on the lower and easier floors, and want to save them for harder floors. Other notable monsters you will likely want to save are Chloe, Konamiya, and Shushu. These are monsters that are very useful in some boss stages. Lastly, in the research status menu, this is blank for now, but it will fill up as we receive buffs in the form of research cards. The general idea of Galagos Ruins is to take your summoner and monsters into each different type of floor and beat the challenges, each step of the way getting as far as you can and reaping the rewards. Let's start with the monster selection guide. You have some basic requirements down at the below, but outside of that there are some important types of monsters you need to bring. Most importantly, you want to bring a lot of support monsters. Unless you're Akina, then you could typically get away with more knights, warriors, and DPS. But even as Akina, I would bring almost all of your supports. Chloe, Shushu, and Lulu are some must-have free-to-play monsters, especially for boss stages. The light and dark heart magicians are also extremely valuable in many stages. Of course, you want to bring all of your built 5-star units, but there are many 3 and 4-star units that are very valuable. Rena is another great healer that also cleanses. There's plenty of nice 3-stars that you could bring as well. I always bring the Holy Trinity as well as Rakaja. Do your best to have a good variety of monsters, especially supports. Next up is the Magic Order screen. Here is where you can add different penalties to yourself and your monsters, as well as buffs to the enemy monsters. By doing so, you will receive extra rewards in the form of gold, refined stones, or the all-important Galagos coins, which are used to purchase valuable items in the Galagos shop. These penalties can be added or taken away as you choose before each stage. Now, before you go adding debuffs, let's talk about the best strategy to get the most coins possible. Put on the hardest penalties you can. Bring some decent monsters into the first floor, get as far as you can, and don't be afraid of using some of your better monsters if needed. You will get so many coins by completing the stages with the penalties. Also, for the first run through, try and hit as many boss and fighting stages and avoid the buff, trap, and treasure chest and merchant stages. The buffs are very important, but more so if you are trying to actually push Galagos to the end of it. Most of us just want to farm it for coins. By doing this method above, I was able to get enough coins to completely buy out all of the important items in the Galagos shop and have some left over. Okay, that's enough prep time. Let's get into the stages. The fighting stages and the boss stages are the most common and contain a variety of different monsters. You typically want to aggro a small amount of monsters at a time and deal with them in small groups. See how tanky you are, and maybe you can take on some more enemies at once. The boss monsters in different stages change every season, so you'll want to go into the strategy section of each stage and make a plan about what types of monsters you need to bring before going in. Most of the monsters in the ruins do defense down, so watch out and keep yourself healed up and run away to regain some mana if you need to. There are other stages as well. Trap stages, which have a series of spikes, wind pushy things, and fire, so make sure to bring a move speed buffer and some healing, or if you're a cleave, bring the light weapon and just teleport. The chest stages are super underwhelming. Avoid these as they don't really give anything good. The merchant stages can occasionally have some good resources for sale. The question mark stage could be anything, and finally, there are the buff stages. These buffs can be very powerful, ranging from more HP for your summoner to charging your ultimate with each kill, which is OP. As a tip, anytime a card says it does something for knights, mages, or supports, remember, Cleef is a knight, Orbia is a mage, and Kina is a support, and they also receive those benefits, unless the card specifically mentions monsters only. The end of each floor has a set of bosses, and the later stages have multiple bosses at the same time. These bosses can be very difficult and seem disproportionately more difficult than the levels beforehand. Depending on the type of boss, you'll want to bring in some specific units. For instance, if you have the Shrekli and Arachne, both do dots, so Shushu is the goat here. Borbo and Talatis do a lot more burst damage, so Chloe is queen for these. Here's some basic tips for each summoner. If you're an Orbia main, throw on your Dark Weapon, which gives you a vampire or a drain effect, which allows you to steal health and essentially heal yourself up as you kill monsters. Kina is a support and heals everything anyway, so in some cases, Galagos can be quite easy for Kina, except when she gets to boss stages, it can be kind of difficult. For Cleef though, you don't have a lot of self-healing, you have a little bit on your skill 1 for your wind weapon, and you have a continuous recovery on your skill 3 for your fire weapon. So I like to interchange between the wind staff and the fire staff in order to get some of those support or those sustaining buffs. Let's take a quick look at the shop. There are some extremely important items in here. First and foremost, I would always pick up the Refining Catalyst, as this will be your primary way to increase your gear in the late or end game. Then I would second pick up the Devilmon, and then you have a choice. You could go for the Light Dark Scroll, or you could spend on the Light Dark Legendary pieces, which is what I go for, since we all know the Light Dark Scrolls are just going to be Light Dark 3 stars anyway. I like the idea of saving up to a Light Dark Nat 4 guaranteed with a decent chance at an LD5. Everything else in the shop is horribly overpriced. I will be saving up eventually for these outfits, especially once I can clear through all of floor 4 relatively easy with lots of penalties, and I'll get lots of Galagos coins. At that point, I'll spend it on the outfits. The Galagos runes do change with every season. So if you're struggling with a specific stage or boss, make sure to join the Discord. Link is down below in the description. There's lots of smart people there, much smarter than me, and they can answer all of your questions. As usual guys, if you enjoyed my content, make sure to like and subscribe. As always, I'm TopherSmurf telling you to keep on gaming.